The Allegheny River was given its name by the Lenape Indians of western Pennsylvania. In their language, it means fine river. With the dawn of the Industrial Revolution taking place in Pittsburgh, the river would not remain in its pristine beauty for long, though. The Allegheny ecosystem fell into a state of pollution and ecological decay. But in 1945, newly elected Mayor David L. Lawrence launched what would become known as the Pittsburgh Renaissance, the goals of which included the control of industrial sewage and spillover. This resulted in a drastic turnaround, and the city later went on to be named one of America's most livable. But today, Pittsburgh and the Allegheny face a new challenge. In 2008, the Associated Press reported that a vast array of pharmaceuticals had been found in the drinking water supplies of at least 41 million Americans. But what about Pittsburgh? The simple answer is that we can't be sure. Pittsburgh is one of approximately 36 cities that do not currently test drinking water for pharmaceuticals. The small amount of data that has been gathered, though, is startling. Dr. Dan Volz, a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, has been testing fish caught in the Allegheny. In 2007, he reported that approximately 85% of the fish caught were genderless. In another study, this time in Boulder, Colorado, a similar phenomenon was observed, leaving no doubt as to the source of the problem.
There was a dam right above the effluent dumping into the river, so there are two distinct populations of fish. Upstream, 50-50 ratio, male-female. Downstream, it was more incidence of intersex fish.
Scientists tell us that this happens because the water has been tainted with estrogen. Estrogen has been linked to a whole range of medical issues in both men and women. In men, it has been known to cause a loss of muscle mass, hormonal imbalance, and reproductive complications. In women, it has been linked to hypothyroidism and breast cancer. The one thing we know for certain is that by altering our environment with these chemicals, we could seriously be harming ourselves in the long run. But how, you ask, are these pharmaceuticals entering our waterways in the first place? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. A large percentage of the drugs we ingest fail to fully be absorbed in the body and are expelled as waste material. These chemicals then find their way into sewage systems and eventually our rivers. A slightly more preventable cause is the improper disposal of drugs. In February of 2007, the White House issued the first consumer guidance for the proper disposal of prescription drugs. The report suggests that drugs, except under the rarest of circumstances, should never be flushed down the toilet. It advises consumers to take advantage of community-wide drug take-back programs. If no such programs are available, individuals are advised to carefully dispose of the substances with other toxic waste materials. Ultimately, though, we may need to take major action to bring down the levels of toxic materials in the water supply. Today's sewage processing systems do not have the ability to filter out these particulates, and though research is still far from conclusive, it is possible that some of these chemicals could be harmful in the long term. Some small steps have been taken towards correcting this issue. In December 2009, the EPA, under the direction of President Obama, released a list of drugs that will be considered candidates for regulation in drinking water. This is good news for Pittsburgh. Dr. Stanley States, water quality manager for the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority, has said that the city is closely watching reports released by the federal government and is gearing up to respond to these changes in policy. Dr. States assures us that Pittsburgh is in the forefront of this issue, and that citizens can count on a quick response when regulations are finally put into effect. The chance of a comeback looks to be stacked in Pittsburgh's favor once again.